Support the Amigos podcast and keep the Amiga goodness flowing for just $1 a month. Visit our page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Amigos, the podcast about everything Amiga. Amigos is a proud member of the Throwback Network, your home for quality retro podcasts. And now, here are your hosts, Aaron Dowdy and John Bodovkar Schaller.
Hi, everybody. The voiceover went out in the first part of the podcast, so I'll be introducing our show for this week. This week we're going to be doing Budokan. But before we do, we've got a bunch of news this week. I'd actually like to start with a couple of events that are coming up.
All right.
There's a lot going on in the Amiga world. Brad Arnold sent me a message, and he said that the Vintage Computer Festival Southeast 5 is scheduled for April 29th and 30th in Atlanta.
Oh, my.
They are putting together an Amiga thing. Okay? Scheduled to attend are David Haney, Zach Wedden, and Trevor from Aeon. I don't know how you say that.
That sounds pretty good.
They're also going to have a showing of Viva Amiga and some kind of panel.
Panel, you say?
Yeah. So, what
That's nice that they're doing something down there.
How far of a drive is it down to Atlanta?
I've been to Atlanta twice. I drove down both times. Oh, I would say 7 or 8 hours, maybe. The problem you get is, of course, the traffic. For you local folks, if there are any, and I try to go to this con every year, Korgs, which is the Columbus, Ohio Retrogaming Society, is putting on their big Korgs Con 2017. This year it's going to be bigger and better, they say. It's Saturday, May 27th. 10 to 4 a.m. and it's at the McCoy Center in Hillard, Ohio, which is just outside of Columbus. $7 gets you in the door. $10 gets you in there at 9 a.m. The early bird special. Kids are free, 10 and under. I go to this. I didn't go last year, but I've went the previous 2 or 3 years to it, and then one time before. If you're into,
it's rare to have something so close that we talk about.
That's right. It's Columbus is about 2.5 hours from us. I always find stuff there that's interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen any Amiga stuff there one time. I don't know. They have classic Atari computer stuff. They'll have some C64 stuff, but it's mostly console stuff. They do have. I've picked up some good console stuff there. One thing I pick up there quite a bit is joysticks and like peripherals that you wouldn't think about. Like I got my multi-cart for the Atari there. I got lots of I/O stuff, like RF stuff, hookups for computers and video games and power supplies. You can get that stuff on the cheap. It's a good time. It's gotten to be quite huge. And they've got lots of artists there that work in the realm of video games.
That's how they make a lot of their money, I'm sure. One of these cons.
And so it's a good one. It's an older crowd. It's not like the one they have in Huntington. This is an older crowd that goes this, but it's probably getting younger every year. I know last year there was if you've heard about a podcast called Now You're Playing with Podcast, this is sort of their home con. And I like those guys. And they usually, like last year, they had an Odyssey 2 competition on the big screen, or 2 years ago, and I was there with the Odyssey with the voice hooked up, which it's pretty unusual. Mm-hmm. And so that was fun. So there's good competitions, good fun. So if anybody's in Columbus, near Columbus, that should be a treat. And I will probably, this year, I think I'm going to go up. I think I'm going to give that
make the journey.
Yeah. Lastly, for me, AmiKit 9 has released a new version for the Mac. I don't usually cover the Mac, but hey, if you got a Mac, you might as well get some Amiga action. Mm-hmm. I use AmiKit. Boat likes AmiKit as well, and this new version does some pretty interesting stuff, including some kind of weird thing that lets you run Mac stuff from inside the Amiga OS, which is interesting.
That is.
It looks sharp. I'm sure it runs great too. And one thing with the
it's
Mac.
amazing. I think it might have been Amy Kid on a tablet, too, on Facebook or something, or Twitter or something. And I've got an Android tablet that's a couple of years old, sitting over there unused. I'm going to try and install it on there just to see how far I can go.
Yeah, and with the way the Mac is, it probably will run pretty well.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm sure, I don't know what it's got minimum requirements, but it may or may not meet. But like I said, I use the window when I can't get something to run on the 12. Or it's something like, for example, I wanted to play. I thought, we never did a Amigos play for Hybris. And I thought, hey, I'm going to do one because I like Hybris. I'm going to give this a go. Well, I can't play Hybris anymore on the 1200.
Why not?
Because of my mouse issue.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I do anything, I use up all my explosions.
Right.
In that game, you can spin the mouse and the button, and it comes up, so I can't play anymore. And Walker is another game I can't play on the Amiga because it's mouse based. So. It does restrict me to a certain degree until I get that problem fixed. So sometimes when I need a good emulator on those rare occasions, I'll load up AmiKit and makes it nice and simple. So that's pretty much all I've got news-wise. But I saw there were some updates for the Vampire 2. They came out, I think it was the Gold 2 update, which adds some functionality. I'm seeing a lot of Vampires being sold now, from end users, not from the company, and so those are going around.
Are these people that are just they're just trying to?
Well, I think they just are moving on whatever, or maybe they're trying to take a little profit out of it since they got a real good deal on them to start with.
Right.
And I don't know the Vampire 2's I don't know if the Vampire 1s aren't. If there's a major leap there, I'm not sure because I obviously don't have one, but so. The day's probably coming where those things are going to be a little more plentiful, but I don't know.
That's good for everybody because that should mean the price will come down a little bit.
I'm not optimistic on that, to be honest with you. I think it's going to stay high for quite a while. And these guys, whenever they sell one on eBay, it sells for pretty good money. Yeah. So I don't, unless there's just a really crippled one out there and you can get a good deal on it, you're probably boned.
We've got. Site updates. Actually, you know what? The last thing we should talk about is kind of a sad thing. Found out some bad news about Jimmy White.
What? Oh, about his apartment.
Yeah, his apartment. I guess there was an electrical fire, and Aaron and I are both newly crowned fans of the Chinook, and we our thoughts go out to Jimmy White and hope that he's able to. Kind of put his life back together. I couldn't imagine having your place burned down like that.
Well, I think somebody mentioned that they were happy they'd proven it was an electrical fire
as opposed to arson.
A drunken mayhem or something like that. It's funny. I was talking to my buddy. We were playing pool last week, and I was talking about, I watched this thing and we were playing snooker. And after my pool performance, I don't need to be anywhere near a snooker table. I'm god awful. I'm horrible at that.
Several times I've considered buying a pool table for down here.
Oh, yeah? Then you play?
Yeah, then I play and
Stick
with
pinball.
Yeah. Plus, pool takes up a lot of room. Yeah. Let's not kid ourselves. So we've got some site updates.
Yeah, a lot of site
updates.
It was crazy.
Let's start with we have Amigos magazine issue 3 has been released.
Outstanding. This is every time it gets better.
Yeah.
And having flipped to the second one and read all of the first one and read all of this one, it's great.
Yeah.
The elite thing in this is stupendous. The information, it's great. It's professional. I love it.
I love what he's done here.
I can read it on my phone.
Yeah,
which is great.
I read it on I've got a little iPad Mini when I'm eating breakfast. I just go through it.
I have it loaded up, and then when I'm at work and I've got a spare moment, or if I'm sitting in traffic and someone else is driving, I'll whip over and have a look at it. And man, that's how I've read all of it so far. Just in little little nudges, and it works great like that.
Yeah, I love that he puts. He has this huge feature on Elite.
Yes. Very exhaustively done.
Yeah, and I loved reading about all the different versions. I didn't really know much about the sequels. Of course, I played Elite Dangerous. I love that he has the charts here.
Yeah.
Now, I've got to say that, let's see, this is February 1991. This has to be like the low point of all music history.
When the Dude of Bartman's number one. In fact, this list is... It's one dud after another. There's a couple there that I can tolerate. I like Kylie Minogue, but I don't like that song. And CNC Music Factory, that's sort of dopey, iconic music now because it's so ludicrous. But yeah, I looked at that list and I'm like, man, when Do the Bartman is number one song, you got big problems.
Yeah.
You know, when the UK has this tradition of having goofy number one songs.
They do.
Like the Young Ones had that song, they hit number one.
And they've got the whole Christmas thing too, releasing the Christmas single.
Yeah.
That
really strange.
Yeah. So, but anyway, check out Amigos Magazine issue 3 on newsstands now. You can find it on amigospodcast.com.
Yeah, it's great.
Aaron, you put together a pretty exhaustive compilation of all the worst fighting games.
No,
on
it
the
wasn't.
Amiga
It
platform.
was only exhaustive in playing the games. Yeah, I put out the ultimate bad martial arts compilation. It was really it was 3 games that were all. It's funny as I was doing these, I was like, I'm going to release a bunch of these martial arts. That's going to be great. Well, they're so bad that I just can't play them for too long.
Yeah.
So this one is, I believe I put. It's got. Human Killing Machine or Human Fighting Machine, whatever that one was called, and Taekwondo, and then the last one is oh boy, help me out here, Bo. What was that last one? It was junk. It was the worst of the 3. They were all horrible. But yeah, I ran through them. I just took the ones that I couldn't stand to play for more than 5 minutes and just smushed them into one big video and released it. So yeah, if you want to see the worst, and honestly, there's a lot of these games. I was telling Bo. Doing this list is when you see how much stuff isn't on WHD load. I guess no one bothered to do it, and I wasn't going to hunt it down. Although now I've seen a couple of titles I want to try, but I have a feeling these aren't the worst.
Right.
I'd say there are much worse ones, and that's not good.
Yeah.
Human Killing Machine looked awesome. I was dying to figure out what was going on, but I couldn't do anything with it. It was just that Russian guy. And if you watch the video, I'm at one point I'm whooping this dude's butt, and his energy bar goes, and it just builds back up. I'm like, I'm screwed. And he just comes over and hits me one time and blows me away. I'm like, well, I'm done.
Dreamcatcher has been active as always.
Oh, man. Big time.
He put a really great article out about a game I'd never heard of called Heimdall the Viking.
I'd heard of it, but man, I didn't know anything about it. Now I'm dying to play it. It looks great.
We ought to do that for an episode pretty soon.
This is the most exhaustive look at a game, including talking with the developers. I mean, Dreamcatcher needs, this one needs to be spread the word. All of his stuff's great, as I mentioned before. All these guys are great. But this is a tremendous article. If you're into this at all, he's really good.
Chris Folds actually, he asked if there were any Amigas in the, you remember the IT Crowd, the British version, there's all those old computers
yes,
in the
that
basement.
was awesome.
And Dreamcatcher actually tracked down the Center for Computing History's curator, Jason Fitzpatrick, and interviews him about the props on the show. So if you want to know if there was an Amiga in that room, or just at this prop museum, then you'll have to read the article.
That's another crazy one. Those two, Chris coming up with the thought, and then Dreamcatcher going
pouncing on it.
I don't know. He knows everyone. It's a tremendous another one. I like that show, by the way. I used to watch it all the time back in the day and laugh.
Yeah, it's great. It's amazing they didn't make a bad U.S. version, or did they?
It seems like they were going to make one.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it.
It's sort of like, remember when they did AbFab over here? And
when did they do AbFab over
That was
here?
something they flirted with. I think they did a pilot for it. But who's going to watch that? Nobody.
Jeez.
Can you imagine like a Young Ones over here? I think they were going to do that too. There's been every British show that's remotely popular.
Yeah, he gets remade.
Can you imagine like a Mr. Bean or a Blackadder or a Young Ones or a Monty Python? Something you could.
It wouldn't
It'd
work.
be ludicrous.
It wouldn't work. And then finally, Dreamcatcher has been talking to David Pleasance.
Yes.
It's funny because the way that he cranks out these articles, it's like they're best buddies. He interviews him just briefly about the new book that he's writing about the Commodore Uncut history.
That looks like it's going to be the bomb, and I mean, he's going to drop the bomb.
Oh yeah. There might be some secrets revealed in there. So,
also, you forgot about your interview.
Oh yeah, I forgot we interviewed one of the most important
myth.
people in the Amiga scene today, Mr. Chris Folds.
Yes.
So if you're interested in getting to know Amigos contributor and all-around great guy Chris Folds, I do interview him on our YouTube channel.
And also the multiple videos you put up about for chicken this week.
Yeah, that's true. I have not listed those on the blog because I plan on doing what you did, combining all of the videos into one. But I did review the Nintendo version, the Nintendo version, the Super Nintendo Super Alfred Chicken, and also the Game Boy version. But I'm going to have to re-record that because I forgot and muted my microphone.
Well done.
Yes. So That's it for the events. That's it for the news. That's it for the site updates.
That's a lot.
Let's jump right in. Bushido.
Okay,
Budokan.
yeah. All right, let it go. So Budokan, not Bushido. I got it.
Okay.
Bushido was another game, by the way. It just wasn't on the
Bushido Blade.
Yeah, that's one too. But I think there was a game just called Bushido.
I'm sure there was.
Budokan, the Martial Spirit. This game was released in 1990, 2 discs. This is one of the ones I actually own in disc form. I don't have the box for it. It was created by a guy named Mike Kasaka. This guy on the Amiga did a lot of stuff that you would have heard of. He did 688, Attack Sub, which is one of my favorites.
We need to do a good sub game.
You ever played 688?
No.
I used to play it on the PC and the Amiga. The Amiga version is way better. I did Centurion, Destroyer, Ferrari F1. He did Ski or Die, which is not popular.
Yes.
But he also did Skate or Die. That was one of his. Not on the Amiga.
I was going to say.
And he did G.I. Joe on the C64 and World Games, I think, on the C64 as well. So he did Skate or Die, World Games, and G.I. Joe on 64. And he also was responsible for Madden 94. So
Interesting.
He had a pretty wide array of gaming activities. Mm-hmm. This runs on the OCS. Nothing special about it. It was converted to a lot of systems. Amiga was not its native port, which I'll get into, but it had the usual suspects. You've got your Amstrads, your C64 128s, your MSX, the Genesis / Mega Drive, ZX Spectrum, the Tandy PC version, and the PC DOS version. The original version of this was on the PC, which that actually may explain a few things, which we'll get into later about the way the pace, I guess, of this game.
Right.
This is basically to sum up this game, and we'll get into it more thoroughly. This Budokan is a game where you are simulating training and eventually fighting in a varying degree of martial arts, handed or empty-handed and weapon-based.
What do they
martial
call
arts.
What is the opposite of empty-handed?
Full-handed.
Full-handed?
I guess.
I don't know.
With a thing in
with
your
the
hand.
thing.
Eventually, if you after you finish practicing and trying to learn what you're doing, you can enter the Budokan, the tournament, the Budokan, and it's the Nippon Budokan in Tokyo. The Budokan is a real building, and I'm sure if everyone's like Boat, tell them where you heard of Budokan, Boat, and I'm
Surrender, surrender.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going on that road.
Don't give yourself away.
I'm sorry, folks. The Budokan is a actual building. Like I mentioned, it's in a place called Chiyoda, Tokyo, which you've been to Tokyo, right?
I've been to Tokyo. I've not been to the Budokan.
Okay. Do you know where Chiyoda is in Tokyo?
No.
This thing is huge. It seats 14,000 people. It was built in '64 for the Olympics. It was for the judo competition at the '64 Olympics, which you can imagine in Japan that would be huge.
Oh, sure.
So it's been around for a while. In English, Bushido translates to Martial Arts Hall. So they didn't really put a lot of thought in the name, I guess. Have you heard of a place called Kitanumaru Park?
No.
Okay, that's where it's at, the center of Tokyo. It says it's 2 minutes walking distance from the Kushdanshita subway station.
Okay.
And it's near the Yasukuni Shrine. I'm saying this because Boat's been to Tokyo.
I've only been to Akihabara, really. I went to Super Potato. That was it.
So this is a huge stadium that is pretty interesting. I'd heard of it because of wrestling. It's a place where big shows are held in Japan, including big New Japan shows if you're into wrestling, or All Japan ran there, and Noah runs there too.
14,000 capacity. I guess is that about average for Madison Square Garden? Does that hold?
No, I'd say that's more than the Garden holds.
Okay.
I'd say the Garden's not that big, honestly. This was the site of one of the infamous bad fights of all time. Muhammad Ali versus Antonio Inoki. Are you familiar with this fight?
Tell me about it. People
consider this the first truly mixed martial arts fight in history. It's not, but it's the first big one probably. And the lead up to it was unusual because Ali thought it was going to be a fake fight. a wrestling match. And then Inoki was going to use this to make his name. Inoki was sort of almost like a household name in Japan, and for not just wrestling fans. He was very popular. And they went back and forth around the rules on this event until finally the day before, they decided that Inoki couldn't. He basically, Ali could punch, but Inoki couldn't take Ali down. And so what ended up happening, and I'm sure some of you guys have seen this, it's pretty famous. Inoki spent the entire fight on his butt, scooting around the ring, kicking Ali in the legs. And then Ali spent the entire fight laughing at Inoki and punching him whenever he got anywhere near him. And it was 12 rounds, I think it was that. It was horrible. It's one of the ultimate bad fights. The undercard had a much more amusing fight, which it was from the Met Stadium there in New York. It was Andre the Giant against Chuck Wepner, who was a perennial boxing contender, and he had the distinction of knocking down Muhammad Ali in a fight, and he still got killed in that fight, but he did knock him down once. And so this had the infamous bit where Andre headbutted Chuck Wepner, picked him up, and threw him out of the ring. It was really awesome. If you feel like looking it up, but it was on it was the undercard for the Inoki fight. There's been a lot of other stuff held there. If you're into Pride fighting, K1, Shuto, so it's the perfect place to house a martial arts tournament, as it's housed many times. Oh, good God! Also, the Budokan's known as boat attested earlier to hold rock shows. The Beatles played there, first band to play in the Budokan. Cheap Trick played there, of course, and Bob Dylan. They were probably the biggest acts that played there. An act called Chat Monarchy. Have you ever heard of Chat Monarchy? Mm-mm. They hold the record for the largest crowd in the Budokan, according to Wiki. I've never heard of this band, so they must either be Japanese or from another place. So, I guess where I'm going here, the Budokan is a big deal. And it's the perfect backdrop for a game like this. So, the game. You have, you start out in a courtyard of some sort of shrine. You have buildings on either side of you that you can go and train in. You can train in open-handed karate. You can have kendo. You can have a bow staff training, and then you can also have nunchaku training. And you go in here, and you can train in here. You can have fights with the computer in here, and the fighting system. This is pretty advanced, wouldn't you say?
It's well thought out. You know, this was not designed to be a button mashing experience,
right?
It's rather Lionheartish in that pressing a button does nothing. You know, you press and hold a button and then hold a direction to do something. If you get into a certain stance and press the button, you will do something. But simply just like pressing the button does not make anything happen.
One thing this game does, and I had to get a full effect of how the game worked, I had to look up the instructions and read some facts and stuff on it. And a lot of what you do will be pressing forward and then pulling back while hitting the button, or pressing back and hitting forward and hitting the button, or doing that in all the different directions will result in different moves. There's actually a robust set of moves in this. Mm-hmm. I know when I played this back in the day, I was like, what the hell am I doing? I couldn't get any moves. Well, I needed instructions. This is a game where you need instructions to look at and to understand at least the positions that get moves to go off. And then once you've learned those positions, you can memorize the moves you like and use those. But it's not like any other fighting game I think I've ever played in terms of the way it works with one button. I mean, they had to put a lot of thought into making this game work, in my opinion. Now, the downside of the fighting in this is it's lethargic. It's not a fast-paced game. Mm-hmm. Some people, that's a huge turn-off, right? I don't mind it, personally. I kind of like a slower style because it does give you a little bit of time to kind of plan what you're going to do. And with the control like it is, you really sort of need some extra time to kind of figure out what you're going to do. So as you go through this, there's also at the top of the screen there are two bars. There's a stamina bar and there's a key bar. Stamina is it's basically hit points. It will slowly recharge if you don't get hit. Your key is the amount of power you're generating, and with your strikes, the more, and that will regenerate as well. And so, but when you're going bananas, your key drops to zilch. Mm-hmm. So you're not doing a ton of damage, but you're doing a lot of punching.
It's the trade-off,
yeah. Right? And it works pretty well, I think. What did you think about that? The situation with that? I mean, I thought that's a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, I feel like when you've only got one button, you have to kind of change your approach to the way you want to do a martial arts game, mm-hmm. especially if you want to make it more realistic. And this is a realistic representation of all these weapons, you know. You're not doing crazy things with the bow staff. You're not flipping it around your head and stuff like that. All of the things that you do are things that you would do with a bow staff if you were a real person.
Right.
I think the key system is a good way to balance people that just want to mash buttons. It teaches you to kind of hold back. To be honest with you, this is one of the better martial arts games that I've played on the Amiga.
This one, when I was doing my martial arts videos, I had played this years ago, and I'd forgotten how much I liked it. So I was going to include it with the other kind of dud martial arts games that I played. I was like, we need to push this one up because it's got a lot to offer. When you finally advance, and of course, there's one thing I should mention. There's also an area where you can go to have 2-player fights, and you can pick amongst the different disciplines. Mm-hmm. And go and have your fights, and then go that route. So that gives you that option too. You can have your 2-player fights. Now, the main jut of this game, the big draw, is the actual tournament fights, and they don't disappoint, in my opinion. You've got 12 opponents. They're all different. They all have bios. But when you start the match, the bio comes up. It'll have their discipline and what if they're using a weapon or what they're using and where they're from, and it'll have a little thing, a quote about them, and it gives them background. It really works. And when you actually fight the guys, they look different than your guy. There's a couple that look just like your guys. 1, 2, I'm thinking right there, look just like you. But there are 10 men and 1 woman, and then a ninja who is certainly a woman with her eye, the way her eyes look. Mm-hmm. When you see her on the screen fighting, it looks just like a man, but it's a woman fighting. And the neat thing about the tournament is that there are guys in the tournament using weapons that you don't have access to. There's a guy with tonfas, which are a different type of weapon that were based. All these weapons really came from. Well, I don't know about the bow staff, but the chucks and the tonfa. These are weapons that were used in Okinawa when that was an area that weapons were forbade, and so they used farm implements, mm-hmm. including like the size is another one that they use. I believe size were used for like something with doing with wheat, mm-hmm. So they used these different. They used a martial art that incorporated these not weapons and made them into weapons. That's mm-hmm. That's where they came from. And this game's heavily Okinawan based. If you read the instructions, they talk about the history of Okinawa, which is funny because we just talked about Okinawa on the Karate Kid 2 segment we were talking about last week. So I thought that was neat. So at least I had a little bit of a basis for it. One thing I thought was, I'm just going to bring this up because I thought it was amusing. I'm looking at the manual, and at the very beginning of the manual, it's got this thing. It says it's called "The Monks and the Thieves: A Fable." All right, did you see this? So the fable is these monks came with wheat to sell to mm-hmm. this village, and they said we need enough money to survive, and they sold the villagers their wheat. Then they came back a month later, and the price had doubled, and the villagers are like, "Why is the price double?" It's like we need enough money to survive, and thieves have been stealing some of this wheat, and we need to sell it for more money to survive. And people buying it knew some of the thieves. They were kids. They were just taking scoops of the wheat for themselves, and they couldn't understand why it would cause the monks to lose so much wheat. Mm-hmm. And the price got higher and higher and higher, and eventually the monks stopped coming. And people were desperate for this wheat. Where's the wheat, they would say. And this is a parable to talk about why you shouldn't pirate the game. Which I thought was, I mean, I'm going to give them credit on this. It was real clever and a good way to start off the manual. So don't pirate Budokan, please. don't make the children starve, but they were equating the villagers with the people that were stealing the game eventually.
Yeah.
You want the game, there's no more games. You can't afford them anyway. So that was I thought that was kind of clever.
Mm-hmm.
What was your favorite weapon in this?
Oh boy, I'm a sucker for the classic bow staff.
Uh-huh.
I was less than impressed with the nunchucks, the nunchaku.
The computer can handle this very
Better than I can.
Yeah.
I actually just enjoyed doing the old open hand fighting.
Yeah.
The kendo stuff, I felt like it was difficult for me to control. Also, what's the other one? Is that it?
You have
there's
kendo.
4. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now the other guys, like there's a guy that uses a chain with the blade on the end. It's funny, I've seen that at actual karate tournaments. The guys doing stuff, katas with them, forms. And they had to clear the whole floor.
Oh,
so these
sure.
guys could do this form with this blade. And they would lay flat on the ground, and somehow they could spin this thing right along the ground and then do like a worm and go over. It was really cool.
Wow.
This one guy made his money off doing this. This was his thing. He would go I'd see him at all these tournaments doing this, and it would always work. It blew people away. And then Tonfa's one. And then I think there's a guy with like sort of like a sword thing, and then the ninja threw stars, which I thought was neat. And if you read the instructions for this, the instruction manual for this is quite good, and it goes into the origins of these different weapons and why some of them were looked down upon. Like a lot of the guys.
This is back when instruction manuals were instruction manuals.
Yeah, it was really good, and the I mean, even without the manual, the background that it gives the characters is good too. So you get a little flavor for it, even if you don't have a manual.
One thing that we haven't talked about is just how breathtakingly beautiful the backgrounds are in this game. And the art. There's animation in these things. You're fighting in the garden. In the garden in the background, there's a bird that walks across there. This is what International Karate Plus needed.
Yeah, this really and
this is an OCS game.
Yeah, and I thought the exact same thing. If you could combine a little bit of the speed from International Karate with this, you really would have something special. The beautiful picture of the Budokan, like there's one there, like you're looking out the window in these various places, there's all kinds of stuff going on. It looks like a living world.
Yeah.
And even the fighters themselves, like there's one guy in the tournament that wears this like wig, and when you beat this guy, he slopes over and the wig falls off. Just a lot of
personality.
That. And the pictures of the fighters themselves are just, they didn't even have to put flavor text underneath it. Just the pictures speak volumes about who you're going to be fighting. They just look like real people. And the descriptions, I mean, it fleshes out these guys. You're like, okay, I got to play this guy. I just love that aspect of it because they didn't have to do it. The fact that they put 12 different guys in this, these are like palette swaps and something. There's nothing, there's a guy that looks like he's Swedish or something. He's blonde. He comes in and does his thing. Then you've got, like I said, the ninja. This guy comes out in this real elaborate armor, It's neat. And it makes it fun. And plus it gives the game a certain depth that it really doesn't actually have.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 2 players, I've played with my brother many times back in the day, and it's pretty much the same as 1 player. I mean, it moves the same speed, and it's the same basic thing. I wish there was a way to get to play the other weapons. I don't think there is. I haven't seen how you do it. When you're in the tournament, you can only pick certain disciplines. All the disciplines you can only pick them so many times. So if you're a big bow nut, for example, you can't just whack guys with bow for 12 rounds. I think you get to use them 4 times. So you've got to spread it around a little bit. Yeah. So there's just a little bit of strategy. Who don't want to fight? Okay, this guy I know he uses a kendo stick. I need to use the chucks here. Or this guy I know uses the chain. I need to use the bow. Something like that. So there's strategy in that element too. Plus, it's very few people are going to be skilled at every one of these.
Right.
So I think that adds a lot to it as well. I really don't have anything to not praise in this aside from the fact that it's slow.
Slow.
And again, it's acquired, I guess. I mean, I can see where people would be turned off by it. It doesn't turn me off in terms of the way it runs. Any thoughts on anything else?
That's really all. That's really all I can say about it.
I think this is sort of an unknown quantity. I don't think a lot of people have given this much love. And I think people of the time, including myself, were like, man, this isn't Street Fighter at all, or Mortal Kombat.
This is the Skate to Tony Hawk.
If you want to make a modern comparison.
Yeah, well, you got to think 1990. I'm trying to think what year Street Fighter came out.
1990.
Right, so same year.
But Street Fighter 2...
So that's what I'm thinking of.
Street Fighter 2 is later, 91.
But when I played this, it was several years later after it was released.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not a fighting game like that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a game for the PlayStation that was sort of a realistic samurai game. I can't remember the name of it. But it
was Bushido Blade.
Was that Bushido Blade? And that was a great game. And again, it sort of reminds me of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's more advanced and more you can roam around and stuff. But I mean, you could kill a guy with one or two shots, and they're dead.
Could be killed in one or two
sure,
shots.
and you could get jobbed out to a guy that sucks.
Yeah,
you could get lucky, but that's the way real fighting is.
Right,
Guys has a pointy stick; he can run it through you, and you're done. So I appreciate that. Plus, having been to karate tournaments, this is probably the closest I've ever seen a depiction of a karate tournament, at least on the screen. Like, the stands or anything. It's not like there aren't crowds of people waving money in the air.
Now, where were you going to karate tournament? All my karate tournaments were at St. Albans High School.
I've been to Columbus. I've been to what's the town? Chillicothe. There was a huge tournament in Chillicothe, Huntington, Charleston. I'm trying to think. I went to Moorhead once for one.
So you did a lot of travel.
I was in for several years, so I was in a lot of tournaments. I didn't do well. I won 2 fighting trophies in my career, and they were both third place. So,
well, it's a trophy. You still got it?
It was the system.
Bring it to the show.
I don't have them. I don't. They were
lost in the
were
sand
shameful.
time.
Yeah.
So how'd this game review?
Okay. It mostly got. It's funny. There were some brutal reviews. I actually highlighted a couple here. The 1991 December edition. This is come on Wiki. I remember GamePro magazine.
Sure.
Right? And I'm guessing they were looking at the. I looked at this for other machines. By the way, it's pretty similar across the board in a lot of ways. The C64, it is what it is. It's a little different. But the GamePro cited Budokan as one of the worst games of '91, and they criticized it for its bland gameplay and its unrealistic simulation of the bow. I thought that was a weird one.
That is weird. To me, it's totally realistic.
Dragon magazine, back when they remember Dragon magazine, it was the TSR's role-playing magazine.
But they did video games on the
But
side.
they did some occasionally, and they gave it 4 out of 5 stars back in the day. Something else I thought was weird, meaning that I have a Genesis Model 1. This thing won't work on anything beyond the Model 1, early Model 1s on the Genesis for some kind of reason. I don't know why.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, I'm going to look into that. I thought that was weird. On the Amiga, though, like I said, in terms of ratings, I mean, it was all over the board, really. I mean, there's an 85, like Amiga Magazine, 85%, Amiga Power, 63, CU Amiga, 35. I mean, that's brutal. How do you kill a game like that, So it really was all over the map. The one gave it an 81. So, probably your bigger magazines, you're looking at something in the 80s, low 80s, which I think that's a fair, I would probably put this in the B level, 86, 87.
Sure, I think that's fair.
And that's because, but I mean, if you look at, like, a sequel to this would have been outstanding. Because if you'd put, like, an AG80, something that you could simulate a quicker game, I mean, graphically, you couldn't ask for much more.
No.
In all honesty. This reminds me of, like, if you had a karate version of, like, Summer Games. It's sort of like that. Except in this, the games are actually the Budokan, and the events, the separate events are like going to practice. It's sort of the same thing.
I like that analogy, though. I think that's apt. In fact, it even has that sort of skater dive beginning where you're walking around.
Yeah, it is. I hadn't thought about it, but you're right. You're dead on there. So, like, look at this guy. He's got his Ace Frehley outfit on. He's ready to party. But overall, I like it. It's one I'll come back to. Now, is it my favorite? We haven't talked about. Well, I may have brought up a couple times. But I like this game. I liked back in the day called Panzer Kickboxing, which I think has a more elegant fighting system in terms of, because for one thing, you can set your own sticks up the way you want. But it's not as pretty as this. But in terms of fighting system, I like it more. But I think this is amongst my favorite fighters on the. I mean, if you compare this like Body Blows or something, really, I think this crushes them in a lot of ways. It's more playable. It's deeper.
Yeah,
So.
It's better to look at. All right. Well, eBay.
I had a look at this, and for once, you can get this in the States. In the U.S. of A., if you want a shipped box copy, $22 US gold money right there. So if you got $22, you get it. The UK, it's a little bit more. In US dollars, you'd be looking at $32 to $35 boxed and shipped. Germany, a little cheaper, $18 US shipped. And all these are boxed. The discs actually were going for more than you would think, somewhere between $12 and $17, $18 for the disc. So I just hold out and get the box. You're going to get it.
Awesome. Well, it's time, Aaron, for our ever popular Ask the Amigos section.
Okay.
So,
oh boy, I meant to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have a couple questions from the chat. So the first question is from Brooke, and Brooke asks, "How long have we been friends?"
Oh boy, I'm not good with dates. You want to try to?
I think we've been friends about 6 years.
Yeah.
It was when I moved back home from being overseas in late 2010. That's when we started hanging out.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, that sounds about right.
We met online earlier than that.
6 years?
Mm-hmm.
I bet it's longer than that, though.
That's when
When did you come back?
2010.
Yeah, I guess you're right then.
I mean, I might have seen you a couple times here and there, but we started talking online when I was living in England, and that's why you called me Boat, because that was my screen name.
I got a bad memory.
But yeah, it seems like it's been longer.
It does. I don't know what that says about us, though.
Well, I guess it's almost 7 years because it is 2017.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
2017. That doesn't even seem like a real year.
It doesn't.
Donald Trump's the president.
Where's my flying car? Man?
Yeah.
What's going on?
What's wrong with the future?
The future is now.
Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, it's about 7 years. David asks Super Bowl predictions. You're wearing your Colts shirt. Think they'll go all the way this year?
I think they will. It's funny. I got this shirt on cutout, so here it is. We all want to root for Atlanta because in the United States, I think unless you're in the Boston area, everyone universally hates New England Patriots.
True.
And I also hate them. So I'm going to pick Atlanta in the upset. I haven't seen the spread on this, but I'm just going to go straight. I'm going to use the spread. I'm going to say Atlanta wins it by 17 points. I think they're going to.
He's taking the points.
No, I don't know what the points are. I think it's going to be a 17-point beatdown, but we'll see. It's also wishful thinking, and also I'm a Cowboys fan, so obviously I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. What about you?
Well, my wife, Eep, she is a huge New England Patriots fan.
I know.
When we first moved to the States, we were living. When she first moved to the States, we were living in Boston, and so that's where she gets that from. It's funny because both of our teams are in the same division, and we just don't get the opportunity to watch a lot of Falcons games.
Yeah, that's true. I've only seen them twice, but they look great.
Yeah, they look great. They're an offensive machine.
That's right. That's what I'm hoping they can just run over the pace.
So I think that they're going to give Brady a run for his money, even though you look at the records of the two teams, that doesn't appear that way.
Atlanta's got a good record.
Oh no, I mean the record Patriots against Atlanta.
Oh yeah, but it's a different year.
Yeah. But I'd like to. My only hope for the Super Bowl is to see a close game. I don't want to see a blowout like we had a couple years ago with the.
Yeah, you know what I'm looking forward to the most in the game? Lady Gaga.
It'll be interesting to see what she does.
I hope she just comes out.
Takes off her clothes.
No, I like Lady Gaga because she's people don't like her. She's a weird broad. She's very talented. She's got a great voice. Mm-hmm. She's beautiful. She plays piano.
Yeah.
Very talented.
Yeah.
You remember when Prince played the halftime show?
It was the best.
It was the best,
show.
right?
It was the best.
Gaga has a Prince level talent. Maybe not quite there, but she's very talented.
Yeah, true.
I don't want a political statement.
Yeah.
I don't want anything about the animals. I don't want global warming. I just want her to come out, play a medley of her hits, dance around, and then dance off the stage.
Right,
Bam, bam, Bob's your uncle.
Right.
So who are you picking?
I'm picking. You know what? I'm going to go with you. I'm going to say Falcons. I'm not going to give that much of a spread though. I'm going to say under 10 points.
Okay, good. That's good. So they're doomed, then, yeah.
It's going to be a blowout, 42-0. Yeah. So that's our Super Bowl predictions. Let's see, and
as usual, we played a football game right before the big day.
We have. Can you make a first female Amigos shirt for Brooke? Why, yes, we can. I have the power to do that. I will make Brooke a shirt that says the first female Amigo.
Who's the most famous female Amiga person in history? Probably the chips.
Yeah, Denise and Pauline.
Probably the chips.
No, there were women. Like if you look at those staff photographs,
Right. But
I just
I
don't know who they are. To be honest with you, like I know the lady that designed River Raid, Carol somebody. But
and there was a girl that did Centipede.
Okay.
Right. And
now a lot of the programmers that designed a lot of these classic games, they have transitioned into females.
Oh, like Mule.
Yeah.
The lady that did Mule.
Yeah. But as far as
great
sort of
game and great theme.
Ladies from the beginning, yeah.
Did the Amiga didn't get a version of Mule, did they?
I don't
How
think
did that
so.
happen?
I think that Mule had kind of run its course by that time.
People still play Mule.
I love Mule. I think we should play it right now.
Yeah.
Bam, 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 bam. I love that.
A great song, yeah.
Yep. Let's see. So, yes. The answer to the question is yes. I will design Brooke a shirt.
You would have the market cornered. I don't think I've ever seen a T-shirt designed specifically for Amiga fans that are ladies.
Yeah.
You should make one.
I'm going to do it right now.
I challenge you. It's like when you challenge me to make the game thing, now it's your turn.
Okay. I accept.
All right.
I accept. All right. Well, that is it for the questions for this week. Thank you to everybody who's listening. Thank you to everybody that's hanging out in the chat. We record this week. We recorded Friday at 5. Next week we'll record hopefully on Thursday and at 5 o'clock. If you want to join us on YouTube Gaming, we will be here and with another game. What game are we going to play next week, Aaron? Actually, you know what? Before we do the game, I forgot. I skipped over the Patreon people. We got to thank the people that make this show possible, Aaron.
Yeah.
I will now.
Oh God.
I will now recite the names of our Patreon supporters.
Uh-huh.
Josh Nan, David McCrandles, Jason Warnes, Graham W. Vebke, Rob O'Hara, Paul Harrington, Lauren Giroux, Josh Rulip, Kilburn, Bombing, Tips from the Crypt, Adam Brad, Chris Walls, Will Williams, Daniel, Brent, Scott O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Chad Halstead, Brent Dowdy. Special thanks to Zeus Daz and Ward of Long Plays for the in-game footage.
Nice.
That was in honor of Budokan.
That was nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was cheap. And it was a trick. I feel like I've been tricked.
All right, Aaron, it's time to think about what we're going to play next week.
We know what we're playing. It's Rocket Ranger.
We're going to do Rocket Ranger. It's finally time.
We were holding off, but I can't hold off anymore.
We can't hold off anymore.
Let's do it. We haven't done Cinemaware for at least 1 week.
I know.
It's time.
It's time for Rocket Ranger. Until next time, adios.